let me know your name and uh, who you're here on behalf of, whether you're the applicant, the owner, or someone else connected to the project. So I'll start here with Abby Moran, like two people there.
Hi, I'm Abby Moran, the owner, and this is our architect.
I'm Mike Patchen.
Could you spell your last name for me, Mike?
Say it or spell.
Spell it.
Pachan.
Okay, great. Welcome. And looks like we have Mike Moran, the other square there. Mike, if you could unmute, just make sure your audio is working all right.
I'm sorry. I'm here. Michael Moran, Moran, also the owner.
Okay. Welcome, Mike. And we also have Trey Sheldon here from the planning department. Welcome, Trey.
Good afternoon, everyone.
All right. Are we expecting anyone else to join us here on the applicant owner side of this before we get started? Okay. Let's go ahead and do it then. I need to read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll begin. So this is the December 4th, 2024 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. Again, I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner City. I'll preside over the hearing today. The case before us is case number ZH20240143. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. Excuse me. Sorry. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So for our purposes here today, I'll allow Abby and Mike Moran and Mr. Patchen to collectively tell me about the project, any background they think is important, the zoning relief that they're requesting, and of course, why I should grant that relief or why you think that relief is appropriate. If we had anyone here from the public, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I'll then turn to our zoning plans examiner, Trey Sheldon, to provide testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies, I apologize, folks. I've got a little something in my throat here. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. Okay, last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. You intend on providing any testimony here today, make any comments, ask any questions, do anything other than just strictly observe. The zoning code requires that I swear you in, so I'm going to do that now with everyone collectively. So if you could all raise your right hand, I need you to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, great. Who's going to be taking the lead here on Tell Me About the Project?
I can start.
Okay, the floor is yours.
So Mike and I live in Clifton in an old house. It's a 1931 Tudor, and we love our neighborhood. And we've lived here for 10 years, but we lived in a different house, 2 houses down, for 10 years before that. And the area in the yard that really to us seems like it feels like a backyard space. And we've had a lot of there's a trampoline there now, and it's been play space for our kids and other, all the neighborhood kids play up here. They call it the meadow. And so we're on a corner lot. It's kind of an irregular lot. And we would like to construct an in-ground pool in this area. To us and to our architect and our landscape designer, it feels like the kind of the most natural spot for it to be located. But we do understand that because of the, I think we have more frontage on that street. it is technically our front yard, and we agree. We don't want people we understand why the city wouldn't want people putting pools in their front yard. We request an exception or variance to be able to put it in this spot, put the pool in this spot, and then a small storage building, because it is an old house. We don't have like a big garage, or, we have a garage, but we don't have a big garage with room for, life preservers and, all the little things that you need at a pool. So, that's why we want it in that spot. It feels like the most natural spot to kind of like preserve the feeling of the house and the lot. The place that would be like, I think technically the backyard is very close to another neighbor, and really would be, I think, probably more of an imposition on our neighbors. We've really tried to exceed the required setbacks for the city, and really planned a lot of like screening plans, and tried to design a structure that would be really in keeping with the neighborhood, and hopefully even like make it look better than it looks now. So that's sort of our thinking.
Okay, great. Would anyone else like to comment or ask a couple questions?
The only thing I have to add is that it was our goal to construct a support building that is slightly more utilitarian in character, with board and batten siding, but with the bracketed columns and the trim, all in the body of the house, or the addition, all painted to match the colors of the house. So we tried to make it as complementary as possible.
Okay. So this is essentially like a functional backyard that is under the zoning code considered the technical front yard. Is that right? So you said you understood why you wouldn't want to have a front yard swimming pool. Can you tell me more about the location of the pool and the orientation of the property that mitigates what adverse effects would occur if there were a front yard pool?
Do you like to talk about that?
I'll speak a bit about it. We placed the pool between the new pool house utility building and the house. So the utility building is closer to the Oxford Terrace Street, and we put considerable shrubbery and plantings along that side of the yard to provide some concealment. The pool itself is, obviously you're not going to see it from the surrounding streets, because they're close to 15, 20 feet below that elevation. So the pool being flush in the ground will not be visible. The fencing and gates that are going to be required for the security of the pool are also specially designed in a wood frame that's going to be a natural material finish. And is it a mesh?
Yeah, it's like a wire mesh inside the wood framing, so that it kind of like visually disappears. And it's conforms with the code and everything, but it's visually visually less of an interruption.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, if you visited the property and you came to our front door, you would not come to the pool before the pool is off to the side. So most people who visit here are very surprised to hear that this is considered our front yard. I don't think that I'm exaggerating when I say it doesn't feel like the front yard. It feels like the backyard, because it is kind of off to the side behind the house, sort of.
Okay.
And because of the grade change, the house is up on a hill, and so you go up the driveway to the front door, and then the pool is beyond that.
The pool is in the yard that's it's 20 feet above the entrance to the driveway. And along that Oxford Terrace line is rather steep slope, and that's already heavily vegetated. And we are adding more to that.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna ask when you talked about the vegetation and the screening. Might be helpful if I just, I'm on Google Street View here. Might be helpful if you see what I'm seeing as I ask these questions. So this is the Oxford Terrace side, correct?
Right.
Can you all see that? Okay. And so you said there will be vegetation and screening. Are you saying in addition to what's, I assume these trees and this vegetation still exists along Oxford Terrace,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then there'll be additional
Yes.
landscaping. Let me
That
try and pull
was,
this
that
over
was shown in our landscape plan.
directly. Yeah, directly around the pool as well.
Mhm.
Okay, got
So
it.
David, we have pulled out some, we've tried to eradicate, in the last couple of years, eradicate some of the honeysuckle and non-native vegetations that's there. We are trying to kind of create a natural look on Oxford Terrace. But because of the grade change, if you're standing kind of at where that gas light is and look up, you wouldn't even be able to physically see, in 3 seasons, you wouldn't even be able to physically see the house because of the coverage.
Yeah.
But also, you wouldn't be able to see the physical pool because it's probably still 10 feet above your head.
Right. How far of a setback is it from the street here to where the pool's located?
From the public right-of-way line to the pool house, it's 38 feet. The required setback is 30 feet.
Okay. Got it. All right. And it as I look around across the street, it doesn't look like the homes that are across the street from your property on Oxford are oriented towards your property. It's sort of the side
Yeah.
side yard for those
It's kind
homes
of
as
like an
well.
access road for them to their garages.
Got
There's
it.
two-car garages that face northward on
Yeah.
Oxford Terrace.
David, if you don't mind, I have a kind of a supplementary comment to what Mr. Patchen was just alluding to. Essentially, because and Mike, Mr. Patchen and I discussed this in detail when we were trying to go through the orientation of explaining how the zoning code operated as far as establishing frontage. But because there are no other houses on that block face, you would just use base zoning. And what Mr. Patchen is essentially alluding to is that you could actually have a front of a facade of a main dwelling, like a principal dwelling, with a 30-foot setback for this district right there. Does that make sense? Because you wouldn't have to do front yard averaging because there are no other houses in this orientation of the same block face. So essentially, well, no one would tear down a beautiful house like this, but hypothetically, if someone wanted to put a ginormous mansion here, they could do that with only a 30-foot front yard setback off of Oxford Terrace. Does that make sense to what
It
you
does.
meant with the
Yeah.
30 feet? Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'll let them continue. I'm sorry, but I thought that was important to characterize what he was alluding to.
Yeah. Thanks, Trey. Okay. I actually don't think I have any more questions at this time. So is there anything else, Abby, Mike, or Mr. Patchen you'd like to say before I turn it over to Trey? Okay. All right. Trey, did you want to add some more comments to the discussion here?
Just a little bit, because it is unusual to be requesting a pool in a front yard, as Mrs. Morantis completely characterized. But this is a unique property, I think. I mean, the orientation of the house, it was built nearly 100 years ago, and the orientation of the house is to the west toward Brookline. That's how the house was built. And I'd also want to point out that not only would it be inconvenient to the neighbors to try to put this in the rear yard, which is to the north, it would be almost impossible. I mean, in some sense, you've got the driveway coming right through there. That's the only way that the driveway comes through in that area. So it would be to have a pool even a normal sized pool at all, other than some kind of a little dipping pool, nestled up in the northeast corner, there's really no functional way to have it literally behind the house there, because that's where the driveway wraps around and goes into the existing garage. So it's not just an aesthetics thing here and stuff. It's a functional impossibility, really. Um, the other points that I would make is that and pretty much everyone mentioned this, but you have a gradient falling off from I've included a topographic image, Cage's image there in my staff report, and essentially you drop from 700 ASL above sea level to the southeast down to 674 ASL to the northwest. So you've got a 26-foot drop in elevation over that slope, and it creates a fairly steep gradient along the north side there of Oxford Terrace as well. So it's falling westward, but also, for Oxford Terrace is down even lower. So it's actually rising up from Oxford Terrace, but falling to the west. So it's kind of an unusual, canted lot in that regard, with, as Mrs. Moran pointed out, that the house is kind of on the proud side of the lot. It's built up under the high point of it. They've come to this circumstance with the house already being built almost 100 years ago, way before the zoning code, which is creating part of the hardship here. And the garage and driveway situation could not be altered without major change major change in expense. And then again, they've not only are keeping some of that vegetation in there, but they're really robustly planting that. The pool house itself it's not just some kind of shed you buy at Home Depot. I mean, Mr. Patchen does custom design and hand drawings of architectural drawings, and he's made every effort to have it be complementary to the house with detailed molding and everything. So it should be aesthetically pleasing in that regard. So someone's not just looking at the back of some vinyl siding thing here. So and then there's also, if you look at the landscape plan, I called some of it out. It may be difficult to read on my staff report, but if you look at the application itself, the PDF, I had to cut and paste it, so it may be easier to look at it. But there's really extensive plantings in there, including giant emerald arborvitae, which you and I've seen those in many projects where it's used as a screening plant. But those things are just full on evergreen, year round, big, and will obstruct. I don't think anybody will basically see this even. I don't think you'll see the pool even during the winter time, even when the deciduous vegetation loses the leaves. Further, you have, as everyone pointed out, I think Mr. Moran in particular, the orientation of the houses to the south on Oxford is, it's not a front yard for them. It's kind of their corner side yard and rear yard, where their driveways go back and access detached garages. So, and lastly, of course, the neighbors provided a signed, pretty much almost every affected neighbor here. I don't think anybody quite across the street, across Brookline, signed anything, but every other interested, kind of potentially adversely affected neighbor, the folks both to the across Oxford Terrace, as well as in back on Oxford Terrace, to the kind of southeast. And then the house to the north, which otherwise would have been most affected had you tried to put any kind of a pool or accessory structure in near the driveway. They also have endorsed this and recommended approval for the way this is designed. So with all those things above, I tried to provide as many of the drawings in my staff report, so you'd have to go through all the PDFs necessarily in the application. The only one that I would suggest you give a tight look at is the landscape plan, because they really did a lush job of landscaping where I don't think you're going to even see this pool.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Trey. Appreciate your testimony and your work on the staff report.
You're very welcome.
I'll turn it back over to the applicant and owners. Anything you'd like to say in response to Trey's comments or anything else in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
No, I would just say that like our work on this house has been a labor of love, and we see this as like the next improvement that we're making to the property. The house was empty for a really long time before we bought it, and so we've restored it over the years and gradually been improving the landscape, hopefully. And like Mike said, removing lots of honeysuckle, and we've already planted in dozens of new trees on the property, and just really trying to take care of it and be stewards of the property. So we're approaching this plan from that concept too, and we just really request relief from the zoning requirements to be able to make it even better.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Moran or Patchen?
There was a comment that Trey said about the neighbors across Brookline. We have relationships with some of those people that they tend to be very seasonal. They're mostly college and graduate students. There's a lot of like 2-family and multifamily housing across the street. So we know them from time to time, but we don't always know who our neighbors are across Brookline. So we did make an effort to talk to some of them, but they're not owner particularly, so they're very kind of fluid occupants of those residences. We like that. We like the young, vibrant neighborhood. That's kind of why we moved there and why we take care of it. But I did want to make a comment about the Brookline side.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's understandable. That makes sense. Let's leave it at that. I've had a chance to review the application materials and the staff report, and based on that, based on the testimony that I've heard here today, I agree with Trey's recommendation. I think it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code to this particular project, and so I'm going to approve the project. I need to formalize that approval in a written decision. I mentioned at the beginning that typically takes about 2 weeks. I'll do everything I can to get that out to you as soon as possible. Timelines are getting a little tight around the holidays here, but I think 2 weeks is a realistic estimate at this point. As soon as I finish that, I'll put it into a PDF. I'll email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you'll really have a copy of that decision moments after it's complete. Trey will be on that email as well, and when he sees it, he'll be able to approve the zoning on his end, and you all can take the next steps. Any questions about any of that?
I just have one comment, if you don't mind, Dave. This is in for permitting already, and Mr. Patchen and I have worked on this for several months now at this point. And more than several months, I think since summer. I will be able to easily approve. I will be here during the holidays, so even if the decision's a bit delayed, I will certainly be able to approve. I'm only going to be out of town for the 27th of December, and that's it. So I will be here, but I do believe that you still had permitting to do. The architectural drawings have to be building permit worthy for the building plan examiner. So I'm just explaining there shouldn't be any holdup on my end, but obviously you have to do revisions, which you can go ahead. Now, with full knowledge that this is going to be, approved, you could, I suggest you go ahead and get those revisions in case the building plan examiner asks for anything additional, so it doesn't delay your project anymore. That's just advice on my end.
Yeah, thank you so much. Do you have
Oh,
any
you're quite-
questions?
No, I got that. Thank you, Trey.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me or to Trey. And or if you want a status update on the decision, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to provide that for you.
Okay, well, we appreciate you approving the project.
Sure, absolutely. Good luck with the project. Have a great day, and we're adjourned.